Okay, hey, and welcome back to another segment of Becca Says Stuff, where I say stuff that Larissa can't contradict me on or tell me that I shouldn't say that stuff. So, can go well, can go horribly wrong. Only time will tell. Um, Today I thought I'd discuss something very topical, which is Love Is Blind season 3. Let's not waste any time here. What a whirlwind it was. Um, I've seen all the seasons of Love Is Blind. I adore reality dating shows, and season 3 was something else. I'll say this, it was definitely better than season 2. Season 2 was crazy. So from that perspective, I preferred season 3. But I think I'm gonna do basically like a breakdown of all the couples in the show and just like my thoughts and feelings on it. And it's mostly like post watching everything. Like I'm not gonna go through episodes and specifically what happened. Well, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about specifically things that happened, but like it'll probably be mostly about like post the reunion and stuff like that, just as a heads up. But okay, let's start with a couple that was like actually kind of cute. Like I don't think any of the couples on these shows are like amazing next level, but they were pretty cute, and I think a lot of people were rooting for them and really liked them right away. So that's Alexa and Brennan. Honestly, I found them kind of boring. Usually I like watching like couples that like don't have a lot of arguments and like it's more mundane and they're just like sweet to each other. Um and like I did think they were cute to some extent, but I didn't think they were that cute. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh my god, Alexa and Brennan, they're the cutest, they're so amazing, they made me believe in love, blah blah. Like I see on social media like people really overhyping it and I'm just like, nah, they were okay. Like they were like sweet and I'm happy they worked out and they got together, but like that's it. Also like they're nowhere near like the Lauren and Cameron level for me of cuteness of like season 1. I adored those two. I thought they were so fun to watch, and like I still will like follow up every now and again with like, oh, what's going on with them? I wonder. Um, but yeah, so at least with them, I was like pretty convinced they would actually be able to work out, unlike literally any of the couples on season 2, and shockingly, none of the couples in season 2 have worked out. So at least with them, I was like, oh yeah, they'll probably have like a good relationship. I think they got married, and obviously, like I feel like things are going well. I don't know, like I do believe in them as a couple. I think it'll last for a little bit at least. I felt like one of my some of my biggest problems with Alexa were the traits in her that reminded me of myself. Like I think Alexa was very sarcastic and like rude and a bit bitchy at times. And like I know that's also how I interact with people I love. But yeah, and I also thought she was a little too demanding. But I appreciated that she was who she was and like she wasn't apologizing for it. And like she had great style. She was hot as hell. Like I did like her a lot. I just like would notice these things and I'd be like, that's so annoying. And then I'd be like, I totally do this to people all the time. So um I wonder what that says about how I feel about myself. But anyways, um I think in comparison also to Brandon, who was a bit boring, like he seemed sweet and he seemed to be really in love with Alexa, and Alexa seemed to be really in love with him. And that's like the extent of it basically. Like I didn't feel like I got a lot of personality from him. I felt like he was a bit of a pushover, which I guess is good for Alexa, but then at the same time, I feel like I want to just make sure that in the privacy of their own home and stuff, at least Alexa's like nice to him and like does actually really love him. And I think she does. Like I feel like she did show that a little bit, and she like talked about how like she also felt like she came off very um naggy and bitchy, which I guess is, or not naggy, but yeah, a little bit bitchy. And I guess that's fair. Like I think it's hard to like convey very like sincere. I don't know. It's hard to like be very sincere and like tell people you love them and stuff like that, and tell them how much you appreciate them. So I hope she tells Brandon them that. But yeah, that was basically like the extent of my feelings. Oh my god, it's totally Brennan, isn't it? Not Brandon. Oh well. So for the first couple minutes of this, you'll just hear me say Brandon for some reason. It's Brennan. My bad. But that's how forgettable he was. I can't even fully remember his name properly. And of course, I didn't do any real research beyond just watching the show and then writing up my notes 3 days after I watched all of it. So, hey, what are you gonna do? But yeah. Um, anyways, I don't have that much to say about them. Like, maybe stop overhyping them online, please. It's kind of annoying. Let's go into a hot, juicy couple now. Matt and Colleen. Um, full disclaimer, I think Colleen at first was one of my favorite characters on this show, or I guess people, whatever. And I'm probably, and yeah, like Matt was terrible. I'm probably not gonna like speculate on if he's abusing her or they're in an abusive relationship because I feel like I personally don't have the knowledge or the experience, thank God, to know like what's going on there, and I don't feel like I need to be adding to that. I think that's sort of that's a lot of speculation for something that we like don't see very much of that relationship. Like we don't I'm not seeing enough of it to like go and know what's happening. So yeah. I'm gonna not fully talk on that. I feel like that's just not something that I'm qualified to really discuss. Um, but he is definitely a really toxic, messed up person. Like that doesn't mean that I don't think he's super toxic and has a lot of issues. Um, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I just don't know. Like, yeah, after the reunion, Colleen did look totally miserable, which leads me to believe she's not happy in that relationship. But then again, she could just like have been having an off day or like was really stressed because I do think he was really toxic. I think he made her feel way too guilty about like the two slip ups she had. And that does make me worry that like just generally in their relationship, he's probably making her feel very, very guilty for like every little mess up and every little mistake that she makes. And so I do think like she was probably also stressed about like having to talk about what happened on TV and like what occurred. And I think maybe also getting the amount of like messages on her Instagram and on different like social media platforms, like saying shit to her about him probably also stressed her out because then she's like, oh my god, people are gonna ask about it. Well, like I do think there are a lot of factors going into why she was acting the way she was. Um, yeah, let's talk about how incredibly toxic Matt was. Um, like many of the characters on the show, Matt was not ready to be in a real relationship. Obviously, it's a lot what he's been through. Like, yeah, his ex cheated on him and got pregnant by a friend, and that's terrible, and that was a long marriage. And like, definitely like mourn that relationship and deal with it in like the ways that you can and like try to move forward. But maybe jumping into a marriage, it sounds like not like after not really having many attempts at like relationships or like attempts to move on from it since is gonna be a lot and it's gonna be emotionally a lot to process and like I think I don't know, like go to therapy. I know he said he's done therapy, but I feel like this process is something different. Like maybe he should have been on the phone with his therapist throughout. I don't know if you can do that in Love is Blind, but he should have been because I feel like he needed to like discuss it with someone who wasn't just him yelling, which wasn't just like him yelling at Colleen and yelling about the shit she does and be like, okay, why are you feeling this way? Why do you have these like fears? Because he kept yelling shit with like crazy eyes, like, I don't want to get fucking played again. And it's like, bro, I think this is deeper than just Colleen said a guy was hot and you're upset, or Colleen went out and didn't tell you and you're upset. Like, I runs much deeper than this. You can't blame it on her fully. Like, yeah, she did some stuff that hurt your feelings, but like discuss it. Don't just blow up at her. Don't just freak out. So he has really these really toxic tendencies, and then he just like overreacted, and at no point did he ever like recognize in like a serious or meaningful way that he had overreacted. He just was kind of like, oh, haha, yeah, I get really intense and really passionate. And it's like, no, that's straight up not okay. Like, that's too much. And it's like kind of it's just a fucked up reaction. Like, don't do that. Um, okay. In terms of the pool scene, like, upon reflection and like watching the scene again at the reunion, it was a little more fucked up on Colleen's part that um, she said what she said. Like, I think she maybe gave Cole a little bit too much with it. Like, she was like, oh yeah, like in the real world, I would totally date you, kind of thing. But I also think that in the first couple of days, like when they're on vacation, like this is a show that is obviously built to create like it's like a high intensity environment, and like issues are gonna like come up and arise, and like you're gonna act kind of poorly, I think, right off the bat, just because in the first couple of days, like coming off the proposals, yes, you're really excited, you think you found the love of your life, but you're also like, I think, mourning breakups a little bit, and like seeing the people who you just broke up with for the first time, which most people don't like see their exes after they like most people don't see their exes for the first time after they break, like, you know what I mean, like, so they're seeing what they look like, and they kind of have these thoughts of like, what if I had picked them? Would that be different? And I don't think it necessarily speaks to the state of your relationship so much as it's like the natural wondering after a breakup of, oh, what if it had worked out? Or like, what if da 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 happened and, we had been together instead? Like, I think these are natural questions to have. So in the first couple of days, I cut a lot of the people just slack in terms of what they're saying, what they're doing, because I think they're also like cutting loose, getting drunk, kind of like really talking way too honestly and openly about shit. Um, at the same time, I think Colleen realized right away that that was kind of a weird conversation to have and told Matt about it right away, which is like definitely, you know, a better way to approach it. Like, she didn't try to hide it. She wasn't like, oh yeah, um, it was all on Cole. Cole said this, Cole said that. It was like her saying, yeah, and I think I like reacted in a bad, like, it seemed like she was taking responsibility for the fact that she didn't like how she maybe like approached the situation, and she wanted to tell Matt about it, which I think is like a pretty healthy thing to do. I also would say I think it's pretty reasonable that they aren't living together right now. I feel like this process is kind of insane. That they like go through like getting married in a month and stuff. And I think it's really fair for them to want to like it feels like basically they both said I do so they could like date afterwards and figure out their relationship. And it's like it's crazy that they're married and not living together in a normal context, but I'm honestly thinking that's kind of a smart way to play it, where like maybe it started really intense and big, and you want to like take a few steps back and like go through the normal steps of a relationship so that like it can actually work, and like not force it by like moving in together right away and stuff like that. Like, I think if that works for you, then that works for you, and like may as well give that a shot, because why not? And like move the relationship at your own pace. Like, I think the reasons they gave her bullshit of like money or leases or whatever, because like you could have figured that out. But I do think it's fair to be like, okay, like let's not live together right away. Let's, see through our leases and then see how we feel when those are coming up, so that like we have sort of gone through this relationship in what feels more natural. Like, I think coming out of it, you probably have to find a way to like go back into the real world and like make your relationship feel normal after it's just been crazy for like, yeah, like what, a month, 6 weeks? I don't know how long exactly. I think it's like a month from the pause, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, so like I feel like that's a really fair way to approach it. I don't know why people are like saying, I think like I get why people are like talking about it like it's a symbol that their relationship isn't going well. But I think in terms of that, it's more like it makes a lot of sense to like not want to rush it after rushing it for so long. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and so okay. Anyways, I did really like Colleen though. At times I found her a bit annoying, but that's basically all the characters on the show. I think they went on a reality dating show, so they're probably not gonna be people I'm gonna love. But I enjoyed her. I thought she was cute and bubbly and fun. And honestly, I just wanted her to be happy, so I hope she is. I sincerely doubt her and Matt will last. So I think he's too messed up from his like first marriage to be able to be in this relationship. So like regardless of what's going on, I just think at some point like they're gonna realize it just can't it's just not working. Um but maybe they'll stay together and like be really toxic forever. Who knows? Um yeah, and that's basically my thoughts on Matt and Colleen is like Colleen was, fun as a character, a bit bland, but I think that's just like a symptom of being a normal person and not like a crazy person. And I think Matt is really messed up and um he needs more therapy, like a lot more therapy. But yeah, let's move on to a new couple. Another toxic couple, I think, Nancy and Bartise. Okay, I'll start right off the bat with kind of a hot take. I'm not that mad that Bartise was with a girl like the day after their wedding. I don't give a shit about that. As soon as he said no and Nancy said she wouldn't give him another chance, his actions or whatever he wants to do, like he's single, I think is in poor taste, and I think it's kind of douchey. But I don't actually care that much. I would get it if it was the only bad thing Bartise did, and people were like, "Oh my God, can you believe he did this?" Blah blah blah, bring it up because like he was so great for the season. But like, yes, I can believe he did that. I watched him on the season, and he was awful. And it's crazy to me that people aren't talking more about how Bartise was probably the worst guy on this season. Like Cole was kind of bad, Matt was really bad, and Bartise was truly awful. Just like in terms of consistently being terrible. Like I think okay, well let's just get into it. Bartise is basically everything that Zenab accused Cole of being. He's the worst person on the show. He would consistently and unpromptedly tell Nancy that he thought the other girls were hotter than her, um, mostly Raven, and that he wasn't attracted to Nancy physically. Um, but he continued to be with her, have sex with her, tell her that they were in it together, that they got this, and so on, which is just leading her on. And I'll like also preface this by saying it's okay to not be physically attracted to someone. Like I feel like I've met lots of people where like I thought I would be really into them and like we got along a lot over text or like over like talking, and then when we met it just like wasn't there, like I just didn't feel the sparks, and that's fine. Like I don't believe that okay, well, the way they use the term love is blind, I don't think is correct. Like I don't think that love is only about an emotional connection. There has to be a physical aspect to it, obviously. And like I think when you meet someone like within the first maybe like the first like the first day or something, you're just like overwhelmed by like meeting this person. You don't really like know what you're feeling because there's a lot going on. But I feel like within the first couple of days, if you're physically attracted to them or not. And so if you're not, don't lead them on. Like don't say you want to be with them and you want to work through it, because you can't work through not being attracted to someone. Like that's not something to work through. You just aren't attracted to them. There's nothing else to it. So it's stupid that he's like, I want to work through it, whatever. It's like, don't keep dragging them along. Just be honest with her, and it'll sting at first, but like it would be way more respectful to Nancy if he told her like, hey, I just don't feel like that attraction there, those like sparks that you need, however you want to like put it. Like, I don't feel that, so I don't think we should continue this because I don't think that's something that like can really be worked on. Like, it's just it's not there for us. We don't have that connection or whatever, and that's fine. Like, I genuinely think that's fine. It sucks. Like, it would suck to hear if someone said like, oh yeah, like as a person I really like you and I fell in love with you and then I saw you and it just wasn't there. Like, yeah, that sucks. But at the end of the day, like, it's not something you can overcome. So I'd rather someone be upfront and tell me like, yeah, I just don't feel attracted to you than like drag me on for like a month and like make me think they're gonna marry me and then break up with me. Like, that's messed up, man. And I think Bartise was just consistently putting Nancy down, and Nancy was just letting him. Like, all the time, Nancy was letting him put her down. And it's shocking to me that nobody came at him for it. Like, like, he was just so awful and just constantly saying such shitty things. And everyone's like, well, Cole is the real monster. And I'm like, what? Do we not remember this? And like, oh, but like, you saw a girl the day after we got married and you were hanging out with her. And I'm like, who cares? Who cares that he did that when there's so much else that he did that like would imply that he's the type of person also who would go on a date with a girl, or like, I don't know if it even was a date. Like, yeah, he said he hooked up with her at some point. Um, but like, that point he's single. Yeah, douchey and poor taste still, but like, I don't really care as much about that as I do about the terrible shit he did while he was in the relationship with Nancy. So the stuff he does post the relationship, I don't care anymore. Like, unless he's like dragging her name or something, it, I don't care. But the stuff he did in the relationship was so frustrating to watch and so terrible that like, why did no one bring that up as much? Um, I'd also think, yeah, Nancy shouldn't have let Bartise talk to her the way that he did, and I'm not blaming Nancy for being with a shitty person or for him being a shitty person. Bartise is awful, and honestly, like, I think most people have met a Bartise in their life who just kind of make them feel like such shit, but also like we need their approval or something. Like, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of people have been in situations like that where like he has a way of like making you want him, like, to want you, but like also making you feel terrible all the time. And like, you don't know, I don't know really how to like deal with it. Like, yeah, so like from that perspective, obviously I can understand it. And to some extent I get it. That like it's hard to stand up to someone who is treating you that way because you're having trouble like reconciling the fact that like they say they love you and they say they want to be with you and they're treating you really badly. Like, it's hard to reconcile that. But like, I feel like the way Nancy presented herself and like how confident she seemed to be, um, and like how, I just think just sure of herself and certain she seemed a lot of the time. It was shocking to me that she just let Bartise get away with all of that and like say all these like terrible things to her and like tell her like, oh, you're not hot and stuff all the time. Basically, like paraphrasing, sure, but yeah. And so I just think it was crazy to me that she let Bartise walk all over her like that when it seemed like she she wasn't the type of person who would do that, but looks to be deceiving. So like, fine, in the relationship she was like letting that happen and she didn't care. But even at the reunion, like, she didn't seem to like come at him for like the way he treated her. She didn't seem to like take issue with the things that he really said and did throughout their relationship that I found the worst. She just sort of said, well, yeah, and then you were seeing a girl like the day after her wedding, and that to me was crazy. And it's like, you told him at the wedding that there was no chance. Like, yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna like defend him, but like, to be fair, I think there is this aspect of, okay, it's done, it's over. She said, no chance, we didn't get married, so we're not continuing this relationship, and that's totally fair. And he was like, okay, we're broken up with, and I think he dealt with it in a poor way, but like, that just wasn't the worst thing he did. It just wasn't, like, it wasn't even that bad. It was like a moderately bad sort of douchey action, which isn't, unexpected because Bartiz is just like the epitome of like douchey finance bro vibes. You know what I mean? Anyways, yeah, and then Bartiz, yeah, would use, and a lot of the guys on TV, I feel like in reality shows will use this. They'll say, I'm not like trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to be honest with you. Don't you want me to be honest with you? And it's like, yeah, I want you to be honest with me, but I also want you to know me well enough to know and like be a decent enough person to know when you should lie a little bit. Like, I think everyone in the world tells white lies to the people they love and care about, whether they're dating them, their family members, their friends, whatever, to make them feel better. Yes, you need to know when to lie and just not sort of speak so openly and so candidly. Like when you're telling her unpromptedly, by the way, Nancy's not asking for any of this information. When you're telling her unpromptedly that you think Raven is a smoke show, most people with any brain cells know that that's not something you say to your like fiance, especially when you're putting it in the context of she's hotter than you. Like if you were to say, yeah, Raven's really good looking, but like she's not as hot as you. It's like even if that's a clear lie, although I don't think it is. I thought they were both really like hot in different ways. Like I don't think one of them is hotter than the other, but like let's say even if that was a lie to you, like that's the kind of lie you tell to not make your fiance feel or girlfriend or friend like anyone, feel incredibly insecure and bad about themselves. Like what? So, yeah, I feel like there's just a healthy amount of lying in any relationship. And Bartiz just suffers from what I think a lot of guys on the season have suffered from. And that's having the emotional maturity of a teenager and the mentality of a douchey finance bro, which I said earlier. I feel like stop letting guys get away with this behavior. You don't need to say everything on your mind. Have the ability to think. Seriously, have the ability to put two thoughts together and shut up. I hated Bartiz so much, and he drove me absolutely crazy because he was terrible and he never got his. Like, nobody came at him. Vanessa Lachey, where were you during this, like, fucking reunion? You didn't watch the show and say, holy shit, Bartiz is terrible. Let's come at him. You didn't? No? Okay. Like, when they brought up just the one clip of him telling Nancy how hot Raven was, and everyone just said, more honest than we expected or whatever. And I was like, no, lay into this literal piece of shit. And Nancy still wouldn't. Even once it was all done, even once he, the day after their wedding, was seen with another girl, like, she still wouldn't admit how he treated her. Stop letting him off the hook. He was the one who deserved the public shaming and to be brought to tears in the reunion. He acted like a complete douchebag and then continued to, like, defend his actions and be like, oh, I'm just being honest. You're not just being honest. You're being an asshole. There's a difference. Like, just, yeah, stop letting him off the hook. And, Jesus. Like, I'm so infuriated by Bartiz. And I'm so infuriated that Nancy wouldn't, like, hold him to the, like, she wouldn't hold him accountable. And none of the other girls really held him accountable either. Like, yeah, sure, Alexa brought up what he did after the wedding, but like that's nothing. That's basically nothing. And they just kind of accepted Bartiz's like, I don't want to talk about it. They're like, oh, okay. And I like, yeah, that's all you can do. But I think you can come hard at him for the shit he said on the show and the way that he acted and the way that he spoke to Nancy and her family and like just he makes me so mad I don't even have words. Okay, let's take a break from a really toxic couple to discuss a couple that I think grew a lot on the show, and I enjoyed watching their journey, and I actually quite liked them, and that's Raven and SK. I thought probably one of the more mature couples on the show. I respected a lot of their later relationship. I liked the fact that neither of them seemed to be caught up in a lot of the drama. I thought SK's mom comforting Raven after the wedding was super sweet and like indicative of like how much Raven really tried with SK's family and like how she sort of like tried to form these bonds and stuff like that. I thought it was kind of clear that their main problems were just the fact that SK came on this show knowing he was moving away from the city where the people he was going to meet were living. Like hot take, that seemed kind of dumb. But I'm happy they're together now and taking it slow. By the end, it was much cuter to me than Alexa and Brennan. But anyways, let's look at. I think this, yeah, the last couple, the couple that literally everyone I feel like is talking about. My Instagram memes are all just about these two. Um, Cole and Zenab. I feel like people have really jumped on Team Cole and forgiven him for like all the shit that he did in the first few episodes because Zenab was really harsh towards him. Like he's not a good guy just because Zenab is also seemingly not good. They can both be like kind of bad and bad for each other. Um, it seems to me that Zenab has a lot of issues with her body, and Cole is obviously not going to be the person to help her through that. Like obviously nobody can make you love yourself, but yourself. But Cole was really not going to be that guy. Um, Cole is probably one of the worst people to help you with your body confidence. He struck me as a complete idiot who, like Bartiz, does not know when to lie. And for some reason, he thought Zenab looked drastically different to Colleen. And honestly, those two and Nancy all basically look the same to me. Like in the first two episodes, I struggled knowing with which one was which. I'd be like, wait, isn't that the one who's dating? Oh, no, no, that's a different one. Oh, okay. Like I genuinely was like, who's who again? But whatever. They're all just basic hot girls, if you ask me. So that was crazy to me that Cole was like, oh my God, Colleen's a 10 and you're like an 8. And I'm like, what? They look the same. But maybe that's just me. That's fine. Um so yeah, I just think in terms of like picking a partner, Cole was not a good choice probably if you were looking for someone who was gonna like constantly be reassuring you and making you feel better about yourself and blah blah blah. Um and I mean I think that comes a lot from Cole just being like I think from the start you could tell he was just an idiot. Like he's so dumb. But okay, let's talk about the cuties thing. I think it definitely made Zenab look bad, and I think in general, Zenab just has issues that prevented her from being able to be in this kind of relationship. Um, yeah, obviously the cutie situation was so nothing, and she made it out to be such a big deal. And um, obviously, like, there's probably stuff going on, and like he probably did. And I believe that he would make comments here and there because we saw it that like made her feel bad about herself. Like I totally believe that. That was a bad example, but whatever. And then but like I just feel like a lot of it is Zenab needs to work on herself, on loving herself, on being more confident, but also on voicing how she's feeling. Because it seemed like, um, at least from my perspective, it was somewhat clear from the show and from that scene that Zenab was like often very passive aggressive instead of just coming out and saying how she feels, and like she would just sort of like make comments that made it clear that like she wasn't willing to have an honest conversation about it. Um, And so I think that's a problem, and it's not going to be conducive to a healthy relationship, if you ask me. Like, I think most people would agree with this. Communication is really, really important, and Zenab lacks those communication skills to like tell Cole, you're hurting my feelings when you say things like this. It upsets me. Um, and blah blah blah. And it's not all Zenob's fault. I'm gonna get into Cole's faults too, but just like focus on one at a time. Um, I think, yeah, I think she is a highly insecure person who is struggling to like feel that confidence in herself. And I think the fact that she couldn't, like, I think the fact that she is struggling with that self love, but also can't be honest with herself and like with the people she loves about how she's feeling is basically part of the reason why her relationship with Cole and her relationship with anyone isn't going to work. Like she needs to keep working on herself in order for herself to have a healthy relationship. And that's fine. Everyone needs to work on themselves. I need to work on myself constantly. It's one of my favorite hobbies. That and criticizing other people. Just kidding. Well, anyways. So yeah, I think those are big problems for Zenab. And I think she did blow a lot of things way out of proportion because to her it felt like it was the biggest deal in the world. But then in reality, from an outsider watching it, we're like, is it that big a deal? Because we're not experiencing it. Like, we're not experiencing her and Cole's relationship. So I totally get from within the relationship how it can feel that way. I think when you take a step back, like, you need to have people in your life who are telling you, like, well, think about it in reality, though. Like, think about the situation. Are you sure this is really what's happening? Or is it just how it feels to you because of X, Y, and Z? And so, yeah. Let's move on to Cole. What a fucking idiot. And he acted like an asshole for most of the episodes. I feel like Cole's main problem is that he's dumb and hasn't been held to the standards he should have been held to. Like, he seems to have the maturity of a child, and when he says things like, are you bipolar, and then is confused as to why Zenab is offended, it's just so childish. Like, there's nothing else I can say about that. He says it to get a rise out of her. He says it because he wants her to be affected by the words that he's saying. But then, like, he doesn't know how to defend that. So he just pretends like he didn't say anything bad. Like, he was just being, oh, like, I don't know what you want from me. But yeah, it's definitely the vibes of, and I think I was talking about this with my friend, and she might have said it to me. So, you know, I won't take full credit for this, but it's the vibes of like that kid who is going through a lot in like his family or whatever. And he's having a difficult time at home, so he just like he goes to class and he acts out and he sees how far he can really push it, and what he can get away with, and that shit is just so immature. It's like, cool, you're an adult man who claims you're ready to get married and have a real relationship. And if you feel that way, then why are you acting like a child who it's just like he's acting like a child who's acting out. I think he probably was really upset that his family didn't want to meet Zenab, and I think maybe they're showing him this conditional love that he fears Zenab has for him also, and so he's pushing her and pushing her to see if she'll stay because he wants her to love him no matter what. Which, I mean, everyone wants people to love them no matter what, but it comes at a price of like you're hurting the person you think you love now. And I mean, I think you can see Cole's inability to understand his actions in like the reunion when he like is crying and is like, no, if I know that I wrecked your self-esteem and I was the reason that you felt so bad about yourself, obviously I wouldn't want to do this again. And that's a fair statement to make. I think you can see in that, like, he just has no ability to understand and process why he's doing, like, I don't think he's figured out why he acts the way he does, and I don't think he's processed his feelings about everything. I don't think he understands necessarily how hurtful the things he says and does are. Um, and then yeah, I think when he acts like this, when he's being this kid, he's offending like not only the person he loves and hurting their feelings, but he's also offending viewers at home by being just like ignorant and never thinking before he speaks, especially about something like mental health. Like that question was so out of line, but like let's say you said it and it was like you made a joke and then you were like, fuck, no, I shouldn't have. And that would be one thing, but he said it and then he's like, no, that's a genuine question. I really want to know. And that's him backtracking and not knowing how to talk about it because he was just trying to get that rise out of her, trying to be like you're acting fucked up, and this is it. Um, and so yeah, I think a lot of Cole's issues are being like unaware and being stupid. And like, yeah, I think for both Cole and Bartise, like, why are people not out here holding them accountable for their actions and holding them to higher standards than um, they're clearly being held to? Like, they're just seems like in their lives have been let to get away with a lot of stuff, and we shouldn't be letting them get away with a lot of that stuff. I think Zenab let him get away with a lot of the shit that she claims he did in terms of like how he was like ruining her self-esteem and stuff like that, because if if she was able to have those real conversations with him, it could have at least helped her feel better in terms of like the relationship. Like, be like, I tried to talk to you about how it was making me feel, and if he didn't act, then fine, yeah, he does deserve that public shaming and that calling out. But I genuinely think if she, it feels like Zenab was Cole's mom a lot of the time, and she kind of dug that. But when he acted out like a child, like she was treating him like, um, she would be like, I don't understand why he can't be more of a man. And it's like, okay, well, you treat him like a child, so he's gonna act like one. And I also think, yeah, Cole is basically a child, like not in age, in maturity. So yeah, he's infuriating. Um, but anyways, I just think these two were clearly a really bad match. And that aside, neither of them was ready for a serious relationship. I think they both have so much work to do on themselves before they can be ready for that relationship. And I think that's like a lot of people on these shows is like, maybe you need to work on you and figure out, what's right for you, and figure out how to be in a relationship before you go on a show like this and are like, let's fucking get married. No. So yeah, Love is Blind season 3. It was juicy, it was fun, it was great, but it was crazy. And honestly, I don't know, it was just a lot. I enjoyed it. It was reality TV at its finest, if you ask me. Well, not actually though. It was definitely a more exciting season than a lot of the previous seasons, I think, mainly because it had the good balance of drama and romance or whatever. But yeah, I mean, season 1 is probably the best season. Just for, yeah, season 1's probably the best season. But season 3 was better than season 2, and I did really enjoy a lot of it. Um, yeah, I wish all the couples who are together only the best of luck, and the couples who are broken up, I hope you figure out what when I hope you figure out your lives. Not that being in a relationship is like what you need to be in, but like, for the ones who are acting really shitty, I hope you figure your shit out. And for Nancy, I hope you find what you want and someone who is way, 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 way better than Bartise, because he is a literal piece of dog shit. Okay, thanks for watching me. I don't know. I'm bad at. Okay, yeah, okay, let's do an outro. Thanks for watching me. Please like, comment, subscribe. And if you haven't, go check out the podcast Don't Read Into It, where me and Larissa talk about TV shows that people actually like and not just love to hate. Although I'm sure some of them people love to hate. Yeah, go check that out because it's really good and we work really hard on it. And I promise it's more high effort than these videos that I make. Mostly because Larissa is there forcing me to be better. And and she has really good takes too. So yeah. Okay, bye.